moving forward every day at 11 a.m. I am Lillian Govis, Director of Communications and Public Engagement for Buncombe County. For those who are able to watch this briefing, you'll see we're in a different location today, and this is where we will be moving forward. Behind us, you'll see our beloved Blue Ridge Mountains. These mountains symbolize the strength and solidarity of our community, which is so critical as we come together to grieve, to help each other, to lift each other up, and one day rebuild. With that, I will turn this over to our county manager, AVL Pender.
Thanks, Lillian. Good morning. New this morning, barring any unforeseen circumstances, non-potable water that can be used for flushing toilets will be available starting today at all county and city distribution sites. These sites include Estes Elementary School on Overlook Road in Asheville, Sandhill Elementary on Sandhill Road in Asheville, North Windy Ridge Intermediate School in Weaverville, Fairview Elementary School, Charlotte Highway in Fairview, Black Mountain Ingalls, NC9 on Black Mountain, Can Creek Middle School, Lower Brush Creek Road in Fletcher, Lester Elementary School, Gilbert Road in Lester, Pat Square Park on Court Plaza, Asheville Middle School, South French Broad Avenue, Linwood Crump, Shiloh Community Center, Shiloh Road, Lucy Herring Elementary, and Oakley Elementary School. All sites will have non-potable water for flushing toilets. Please bring a container for that non-potable water. Chick-fil-A is distributing sandwiches and water at Swannanoa Ingalls at $22.99 US 70, beginning today through Friday. That begins at 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. while supplies last. Again, Chick-fil-A distributing sandwiches at the Swannanoa Ingalls beginning today through Friday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Oxygen refilling stations are now open at Palmetto Oxygen, 828-285-0235. Palmetto Oxygen, 828-285-0235. Blue Ridge Oxygen, 828-232-1110. Airflow, 888-345-1780. Lincare, 828-255-4545. AccuCare, 828-238-3100. Bradshaw Oxygen, AccuCare, 828-236-3100. Bradshaw Oxygen, 888-380-6297. And East Coast Medical Oxygen, 828-252-7770. I'll repeat those locations again. That's Palmetto Oxygen, Blue Ridge, Aeroflow, Lincare, AccuCare, Bradshaw Oxygen, and East Coast Medical Oxygen. You can have your oxygen refill at those stations. As we work to streamline our efforts for missing persons, rescues, or well checks, please visit www.unitedwaync.org. That's one word, unitedwaync.org. Or you can text person to 40403. This is for missing persons and rescues or well checks. unitedwaync.org or text person to 40403. An update for individuals enrolled in Food and Nutrition Services program. You can purchase hot food by using your EBT card. We continue to hear concerns from residents about FEMA. We want to assure you that FEMA assistance are not loans. There are grants that you do not have to pay back. FEMA personnel are out in the community and have branded equipment and badges. FEMA disaster survivor assistance are out in the community today from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Black Mountains Ingalls, AB Tech Conference Center, Pat Square Park, Emma Community Center, New Bridge Baptist Church at 199 Elkwood Avenue, and at the laundry use trailer, the Basilica of St. Lawrence, 97 Haywood Street. Again, FEMA are giving grants, not loans. You do not have to pay these back. FEMA personnel are in their community. They have badges and they have branded equipment so you can recognize them as FEMA disaster survivor teams. And they're in the community today from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Black Mountain Ingalls, AB Tech Conference Center, Pat Square Park, Emma Community Center, New Bridge Baptist Church at Elkwood Avenue, and at a laundry use trailer at the Basilica of St. Lawrence in downtown Haywood Street. Please, if you need help, you can access help at one of these locations. Solid waste services. Tomorrow, Waste Pro will run routes to the extent possible in the Anchor Candler area for Tuesday customers. They also have a drop-off site at the Leicester Elementary School on Gilbert Road in Leicester. That is from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have extended hours at our landfill, open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, or 8 to 3 on Saturday. Our permits and inspections office is open and are waiving fees for emergency repair permits. Go to buncombecounty.org/permits. Again, for permits and inspections, we are open and we are waiving fees for emergency repair permits. You can go to buncombecounty.org/permits to learn more. Many people are asking how they can help. You can visit buncombeready.org for donation locations. You can upload photos of adverse conditions such as down trees and block roads and you can do that by going to report.buncombecounty.org. And for questions about storm-related issues, you can call 828-250-6101. Thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to Corinne Duncan. Did I say something again? All right, I've done this before. So the number to call for questions about storm-related issues is 828-250-6100. That is 6100. Okay, and now we'll hear from Corinne Duncan, Buncombe County Elections Director.
Thank you, Avril. I'm Corinne Duncan. I'm the Director of Elections for Buncombe County, and I'm here to reassure our community that Buncombe County will vote. All of our staff and board members are accounted for, and despite personal hardship, we've been organizing to make sure this community has a voice in choosing the people that represent us both in good times and in tragedy. We are now open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to assist you. We have power, but no water. Early voting will begin next week on October 17th. Absentee by mail is happening now, and Election Day will take place on November 5th. Obviously, we no longer have access to the facilities or number of poll workers in our original plans. Our office and equipment were spared. We're working with our emergency team and the State Board of Elections to strategize and modify plans. As we speak, the State Board of Elections is meeting to discuss emergency measures to support the needs of affected counties. A virtual press briefing discussing the changes will be held today at 2 p.m., and you can find that link at ncsbe.gov. Locally, we will hold a board meeting tomorrow at 3 p.m. where we will begin processing absentee ballots and discuss modifications to our early voting plan. That meeting is a public meeting and will be held at 59 Woodfin Place in Asheville. Our phone system is spotty, but improving, so call us if you can. If you're able to access the internet, you can find information on our website at buncombecounty.org/vote, including registration forms and the online absentee by mail request portal. You can also email us with your questions at elections@buncombecounty.org. An important note, the information on our website about early voting and Election Day will be updated as soon as we are able to solidify plans. We are assessing what voting locations are available and working to make contact with our poll workers to train them. Poll workers, if you're hearing this, training is still happening and we still need you. We're working to find ways to contact you. If you can contact us, please do so. If you're available and you are already signed up for training, show up. Absentee by mail is available now. We anticipate an increase in this method of voting and are increasing our capacity to meet that demand. All ballots that have been requested so far have been mailed out. Absentee voting is available to any North Carolinian. To request one, use the online portal or a paper form and do so by October 29th. You can return your ballot by mail, in person, at our office, or at any early voting location. The deadline to return your ballot is Election Day, November 5th by 7:30 p.m. If you have already requested a ballot and need to change the mailing address due to evacuation, contact us. In order to vote, you need to be registered. The registration deadline is this Friday, October 11th. You can get the form online or by visiting us. The same applies to checking your status or finding your sample ballot. You can do so by using the NC Voter Search tool online or by coming to see us. If you need a photo ID for voting, you can also get that for free at our office. We must respect the gravity of our situation. Basic needs come first, recovery is ongoing, and we'll have to be flexible, adapt, and work together, but Buncombe County will have the opportunity to securely vote this election. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Jessica Silver, Buncombe County Environmental Health.
Good morning. Today I'm going to share an update about well water safety and food service establishments. Your well may have been damaged or flooded, and we highly recommend that flooded or damaged wells be disinfected and sampled prior to using it. A flooded or damaged well must be disinfected. If water went over the top of your well, we consider that flooded. Please go to buncombecounty.org/EH for instructions on how to disinfect your well. Second, after disinfecting your well, you'll want to make sure that you get a water sample. There are 3 ways you can request a water sample. First, you can call 828-250-5016. You can also visit buncombecounty.org/EH and make a water sample application online. You can also visit 30 Valley Street Monday through Friday from 8 to 4 and apply in person. We do ask for patience as we visit homes to collect water samples. We are prioritizing impacted areas amid our high call volume. Once we collect the sample, it does take at least 24 hours to run the sample and receive a result. Environmental health staff are also making visits to food service establishments across the county to make sure they are operating safely. We are working on a way to provide a list of establishments that we have visited. Thank you.
Next, we have Vic Isley, who is with the TDA to provide an update from their end.
Good morning. I am Vic Isley, President and CEO for Explore Asheville and the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority. Like the rest of our community, Explore Asheville and the Tourism Development Authority have been heartbroken by the devastating personal, natural, and economic loss from Hurricane Helene that our region has endured over just the last 10 days. And we are very heartened by the gumption, the grit, the sense of community of this people and place. We are keeping our Appalachian community top of mind and in our hearts in the wake of this unprecedented tragedy. Communities across Western North Carolina, including ours, are beginning to recover after this devastating wind, flood, and aftermath of Hurricane Helene. On Thursday, September 26th, Explore Asheville published a travel advisory and sent an email alert to our 2,000 area business partners and media, including referrals to hotels open to accepting restaurants needing to take shelter. Little did any of us know what was to come in the next 24 hours for our deeply rooted creative community. In the early hours following the storm, we took stock of our families and neighbors and checked in on the well-being of our team members. We ceased all paid advertising and promotion by Saturday afternoon, September 28th. We shared information via our social channels of what we could assess at that time. And for the time being, we've urged visitors to love us from afar, encouraging them to donate to help people of Asheville and Buncombe County. Our priority has been and continues to be to care for our residents, workers, and to support the first responders locally and those who have answered the call from all over the country, helping those impacted and addressing the economic and emotional toll at hand. Through this tragedy, the heart of hospitality has been a beacon of light. Restaurant owners cleaned out their walk-in refrigerators and cooked meals for thousands of residents and first responders. Lodging owners and operators without power, water, and very few staff opened rooms for first responders working 24 to 48-hour shifts. Pools were drained for flushing water to maintain operations as best they could. In just the last week, we worked together to solve for sourcing clean linens for first responder rooms, porta potties, and tanker trucks of water to get them operational so they can house more first responders. Our team contacted all groups, conferences, and events through the month of October and encouraged them to rebook Asheville at a later date. We established a clearinghouse for lodging for first responders, linemen, and emergency workers. For first responder organizations or companies providing services, you can now email responderlodging@exploreasheville.com for lodging availability in Buncombe County. When FEMA announced on September 29th that federal disaster assistance was made available to the state of North Carolina, including our county, we shared how to apply for federal funding available to affected individuals, including grants for temporary housing and home repairs, low-cost loans to cover uninsured property losses, and other programs to help individuals and business owners recover from the effects of this disaster. For individuals that need temporary housing or shelter, you can apply for assistance with FEMA. Once your application is approved, they provide a list of FEMA-approved lodging options for you. For more information, please go to disasterassistance.gov. In addition to the North Carolina Works disaster unemployment for people in our community, Giving Kitchen and Southern Smoke Foundation provide aid for food service employees. The Meetings Industry Fund and the Search Foundation offer grants for members of the meetings and hospitality industry. There's an application process for each. We are reminding folks that as of October 4th, the U.S. Small Business Administration opened a Small Business Assistance Center with our friends at the Asheville Area Chamber of Commerce at 36 Montford Avenue. The center provides businesses, nonprofits, homeowners, and renters who have been impacted by the storm a place to personally apply for low-cost financial assistance for their recovery. FEMA and SBA will provide much-needed loans, but our small independent business community needs significant grants. We learned from our friends in places like Puerto Rico that federal grants were also made possible for businesses through the EDA and HUD. We aim to work with our local, state, and federal officials to unlock the much-needed resources for our region that will be needed for months to come. We all have a role to play, and together we will provide for our community. And together we are charting a pathway forward. Amid the heartache, there are also rays of light. Just an hour ago, a concert for Carolina was announced featuring Luke Combs, Eric Church, Billy Strings, James Taylor, and friends. It will take place October 26th at the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, with all proceeds, including sponsorships, going towards aid relief. Explore Asheville and the Tourism Development Authority has pledged $1 million as presenting sponsor. Millions more will flow back to our communities in need thanks to Luke Combs and Eric Church. We've been humbled and uplifted by the outpouring of care and concern from fellow destinations, travel and hospitality friends around the country. Many of them have faced their own challenges and crises in their communities and are now pledging their aid to our travel and hospitality community. We are heartened by their support, so much so that Explore Asheville, our 501c6 nonprofit, has established the Always Asheville Fund to help our small independent travel and hospitality businesses throughout the county recover from the devastating impacts of the storm. Assisting our small businesses with emergency grants, not loans, will aid in part to sustain this deeply rooted creative community that we all love. To that end, we are transferring $300,000 from our Earned Revenue Fund into the Always Asheville Fund this week. Our friends at Destinations International advised they have pledges of $50,000 to begin. More information about the grant process will be available later this week at exploreasheville.com, Always Asheville Fund. We are also exploring other options for recovery in the near, medium, and long haul. This includes evaluating the status of community capital projects that are currently in the Tourism Product Development Fund and the Legacy Investment from Tourism Fund with our partners at the city, county, and nonprofit partners. Since 2001, we've committed nearly $100 million to 50 community projects, and early indications are that some of them have sustained damage, including the JBL soccer fields and the Asheville Municipal Golf Course, which was just under renovation. We are going to be able partners to help bring community assets back online. Much like we did during the pandemic, we're gathering ways that people outside of Asheville can purchase art and items online to sustain our local businesses. This storm could not have come at a worse time for our community. Peak October revenues carry many of our businesses and therefore many of our residents through to the spring. Travel and hospitality is 20% of Buncombe County's annual economy. Nothing matters for business operations without water flowing, from manufacturing to hospitality, just like us for residents. They and we all need realistic information to be able to make the best decisions for families, team members, and businesses. Based upon our initial research and outreach thus far, we've determined nearly 100 local small business partners are closed for the foreseeable future. We need water flowing to reopen commerce. We need commerce flowing to help sustain our resident population and neighborhoods where and when it's safe to do so. We need commerce to help bring back the vibrancy of this creative community. We are seeing progress, slow as it may be. And while travel may not be possible right now, we are asking the world to keep Asheville in their heart. And when the time is right, we'll be ready to welcome them back with open arms. Until then, we thank them for their love, support as we begin to rebuild. Our comeback is going to come in stages. Other than water, business infrastructure downtown fared fairly well. In parts of South Asheville, business and residents have power and running water now. Our Asheville Regional Airport is operational. However, places like the River Arts District that took more than 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears from local artists and business people, and investment from municipal partners and the Tourism Development Authority, it took just 20 years to destroy a lot, but it did not destroy our spirit. We are checking in with our friends in Black Mountain and Swannanoa, Biltmore Village. We're in constant contact with our team and partners at Biltmore And we are also in touch with the National Park Service about the Blue Ridge Parkway. In the last 10 days, grown men have broken down in tears from exhaustion, grief, and the gravity of it all. And we are witnessing the gumption, the grit, and determination of this deeply rooted community to rise. And we are here for it. I also just want to share one more thing that came over from Mountain BizWorks on the Small Business Rapid Recovery Funding. They just announced in a press release form, the WNC Strong Helene Business Recovery Fund, made possible through a $7.5 million initial funding from the Golden Leaf Foundation. So check in with Mountain BizWorks for more relief on the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we turn to the city of Asheville, I just have a quick statement from Buncombe County Schools. They will be with us later this week to provide an update, but they wanted to let parents and students know that they are still continuing to work diligently to get students, teachers, and staff back in all 45 schools, and we'll have an update on a return to school as soon as possible from them. Next, we have City of Asheville here. City Manager Deborah Campbell, Assistant City Manager Ben Woody, and Chief Lamb will provide respective updates. Thank you.
Good morning. As was stated, I am Deborah Campbell, and I serve as the City Manager of Asheville. And as usual, I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt thanks for the support the community is providing to help us work through these unprecedented times and circumstances. I am so proud of the work of our community, our city team, especially along with our county, state, federal, private, and nonprofit partners who are doing all that they can to assist with this long-term recovery effort. Progress is being made every day. And I tell my team, every day has been better than the day before. But we cannot give a timeline as to when we will be fully recovered. Today is day 12 of the emergency response and recovery effort. We continue to focus our attention in these three priority areas: address the basic needs of our most vulnerable populations, as well as the broader community. I'll be giving a little bit more information about that. Water service restoration, and as you heard, Assistant Ben Woody will be providing that update. And public safety, Chief Mike Lamb will provide that update. I did have a lot of information about water distribution, but I think that you all have heard that from the county manager. So I will skip in terms of distribution and location sites and focus on just a little bit of data. As of our last report, the teams at our distribution sites have distributed over 250,000 bottles of water. Nearly 5,000 gallons of bulk water have been distributed. Nearly 11,000 meals ready to eat have been distributed, and 162 cans of baby formula. We urge anyone who has been affected by this natural disaster to connect with FEMA's disaster survivor assistance teams to register for support. If you have received damage to your home, been without electricity, or been out of work, please register with FEMA to get the support you need. You can call 1-800-621-3362 or download the FEMA app on your cell phone or visit one of the sites to talk with someone in person. These sites are changing daily to best meet the needs of those needing help. So today's sites will run from approximately 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Staff from FEMA will be available to help sign people up for FEMA resources at the following locations. AB Tech Shelter. That is AB Tech Conference Center, 16 Fernhurst Drive, between the Conference Center and the parking deck. Pack Square Park at 70 Court Plaza in downtown Asheville. New Bridge Baptist Church, 199 Elkwood Avenue in Asheville. Isaac Dixon Elementary School at 125 Hill Street. For our Spanish-speaking community, FEMA representatives will be on site in the Emma community at 528 Emma Street. Now I'd like to give a little bit of information about city operations. City staff have been working around the clock to get our community back up and running. So today I'll share just a few highlights from our incredible public works teams. As of this morning, they have cleared over 1,300 trees, reopened 57 roads, continue to work tirelessly in extreme conditions to address washed out roads, slides, and sinkholes, which means that we have a long way to go and more of these issues to address. They've logged over 8,900 staff hours in support of disaster recovery efforts. Sanitation. Trash collection is beginning today and will start with regular Monday and Tuesday trash customers wherever those areas are accessible. If you are able, we encourage you to download the AVL Collects app to your phone to receive notifications about trash and recycling pickup in your area. There will be no recycling pickup until the recycling plant is operational. Residents should use both recycling and trash carts for household waste. It is critical that storm debris is not being picked up at this time. These materials will be collected separately by a contractor in the future. And at this time, unfortunately, we do not have that information available in terms of the timeline. Bus service. Limited art bus service relaunched today, and it started at 8 a.m. and it will be servicing until 5 p.m. But that is because of the curfew. And remember, there is a curfew until 7:30 p.m. today, or starting at 7:30 p.m. today. We are doing our best to be innovative in these challenging times. So to make bus service the easiest for people of all abilities, riders can board the bus from any point along routes by flagging a bus down. Please, please only do this for a bus traveling on the side of the street that you are on. Safety must continue to be our top priority. Information about transit service availability can be found through service alerts or by calling transit customer service, which is available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day this week at 828-253-5691. We understand cellular service and internet connectivity remain a challenge for many, including our staff involved in the recovery effort. There are mobile cellular sites located at the YMCA at 30 Woodfin Street, Gross United Methodist Church at 954 Tonal Road, Asheville Middle School at 211 South French Broad Avenue, and Dr. Wesley Grant Senior Southside Community Center at 285 Livingston Street. These sites offer limited cellular reception within several city blocks from where the trailers are parked. The sites at Asheville Middle and Dr. Wesley Grant Senior Southside Community Center also have places to charge your phones. If you are able to make it to these sites, we encourage each of you to sign up for AVL Alerts. There's a link on the front page of the city's website at www.asheville.nc.gov. Text message alerts seem to be one of our most reliable ways to get direct messages to our community, and they are being sent in both English and Spanish. For those receiving messages, please note messages in English are being followed by messages in Spanish. The banner notifications on your phone show the latest message. If you see a message in Spanish, please open the text on your phone and you will see the English message preceding it. Ongoing communication about businesses reopening. Our development services team is set up to receive and issue permits for structures and buildings that have received storm damage. Permit fees will be waived for removal and repair permits, and emergency permits will be fast-tracked. Assessors and city staff will have identification and will identify which departments they are working for. For questions about buildings affected by the storm, please call 828-259-5846. Electronic applications can be submitted to develop.asheville.nc.gov. More information about businesses reopening will be available in the coming days. Every day, we are hearing stories of our community's incredible resilience during these devastating times. But if you are able to volunteer to help, please visit handsonasheville.org for more information about ways to volunteer. I'd also like to share a big thank you again to the mayor and council and state and federal elected officials who are diligently working in the community at water distribution sites and doing whatever to connect with both public and private entities to request resources for our community to support this recovery effort. Lastly, I want to say a big thank you to all of our City of Asheville employees. And I know every time I come up, all throughout my messaging, I'm saying thank you to our city employees. I am humbled to lead this team of extraordinary public servants. I know we're all in this together and we'll continue to support each other as we recover as a community. I would now like to bring up Ben Whitty, who will give us an update on our progress to restore our water distribution system. Mr. Whitty.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Again, Ben Woody, Assistant City Manager, City of Asheville. I'm going to provide an update on our progress on water restoration. I have a few images today that we'll share as well. I just want to start, I want to kind of ground us. So the city and our partners, we were really able to mobilize and access plants and distribution lines beginning on Monday, September 30th. We had to wait for the floodwaters to recede and we had to be able to remove debris. So today is the end of week 1 of restoration and the beginning of week 2 of restoration. So we've accomplished a lot in a week, and I'm going to provide an update on that today. So we're going to start at North Fork, and we talked on Friday about the importance of reestablishing the bypass line. We showed a number of images, some drone footage, and so the first image that you see on the screen, number 1, this is Friday night. So this is after my update on Friday. These are the contractors working overnight, and this is the site of the bypass line. So if you can get that paper for me. So I'm going to make sure the slides, it's hard to see the screen. So this is the same work site. Thank you. And so what you see here is you see our contractors, T&K Utilities and Tanoka, who are making progress on the reconstruction of that bypass line. If you remember, on Friday, we showed you an elbow joint that was being brought in to be installed. So what you see now is the elbow joint and an additional joint are under construction. So you can see the progress on that bypass line overnight. And this next image is a little bit to give some context of what that looks like. So a joint and a line is installed incrementally. The red circle you see around that work area is called a shoring box. So the work area has to be stabilized so the workers can be in that box safely. And we'll continue to do that across this creek bed until we're able to reinstall the bypass line. And one of the things that I want to note about that work is, we'll go to the next image. So this is another look of kind of what that looks like. Again, you can see the elbow joint going deeper into the ground. You can see in this picture, they're actually covering a portion of the installed water line. I'll advance one more slide. Again, same work is occurring. You can see the shoring box. And so why this is important is it just shows you the incremental nature of this bypass line and how it's installed. And this is a really important photograph that I want to share. And I'm going to talk about this for a minute. So what you see, again, to orient yourself, you see the shoring box on the lower part of the picture, and you see where our crews are. And on the upper right hand or the top of the picture, you see a pipe, and that is where I showed the mark. Our drone operator we showed pictures of him at that location. So that's the area that I showed to demonstrate where we lost 25 feet of bank. So you see, we are making our way to that connection point. That's where we have to get to be able to complete this work on the bypass line. So what makes this difficult, and what I want to show is, you see the area they're working is dry. Those are dry conditions. The area they need to work is still in a creek bed. So that creek bed we talked about, continues to be fed by the spillway from the dam as well as tributaries. So what has to happen is, when they complete this work, where you see the workers at now, they will have to go install shorings and have to divert the water that exists there. So we have to have dry areas to be able to install this pipe. So you can see the process that it takes to get across this creek bed. The other thing I want to note on this, and this is again important to know how this happens as we sequence this work. We've actually removed part of the pipe where you saw our drone operator film on Friday, and we did that because we have a longer way to go to connect this bypass line, but that's because we were able to put a camera in that line over the weekend, and we found that line was clogged with boulders. So as these pipes wash away, the pipes that remain are going to get sediment, boulders, rock, debris in them. So when we make these connections, we have to make sure that we're connecting to an open pipe. So the way we dealt with the boulders is we removed that section of the pipe. It was damaged, and that's another segment we have to install. So that's really the process that you're going to see to get this bypass line connected. And as I said on Friday, once we can connect the bypass line and put water into that system, that's how we return service to 80% of our water system. And what we are optimistic, we are very hopeful that we can have this work done on the bypass line in 72 hours. We feel good about that. Things happen, but we want to say that. And once we have the bypass line connected, that is a significant, major milestone in the restoration of the water system. But what I want to do today as well, I want to orient the community to the other piece of restoration. And I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the status of our North Fork Reservoir and Treatment Plant. So this is where the water comes to charge or to put water into our distribution system. So the picture you see right now, that's our North Fork Reservoir. That water source was purchased and established many, many decades ago. It is surrounded by 20,000 acres of forest. It is one of the most protected watersheds in the United States. It is often considered to be one of the most pristine sources of drinking water in the United States. This is a crystal clear water body on a normal day. This is a picture, same picture. This is after the storm, and essentially the best way I can describe this water system, or this water body, excuse me, it's effectively like chocolate milk. So it's went from one of the cleanest water supplies in the United States to what I would term as chocolate milk. It's that murky. So the task at hand for the North Fork Reservoir is that this turbidity, which is a technical term, but we'll just call it murky water, the sediment or the turbidity has to begin to settle before we are able to put it into a filter system and clean it. So that's something that we're monitoring. But what happens is every day that passes, the turbidity in that water begins to settle. That's a natural process. And that's occurring as we are making these repairs to the distribution system. One of the things that is important to note is we are able to intake water at different depths. So there's different points in the water column that we can get water into the treatment system when it's ready. We're able to change that. So we're monitoring the water column, make sure we know where the water is that has the least amount of turbidity, and that's where we'll be able to get the water from when that time comes. The other thing that I want to note is we have EPA and FEMA officials that are on site. They're not only providing resources for this recovery effort, but they're providing technical assistance on how we can treat this reservoir and what we can do to get water back to this community. So again, we have those technical experts that are with us on site. And we're also, with those technical experts, we're working on contingency plans to deliver non-potable water to the distribution system while we continue to restore our treatment capacity. So we are looking at every way we can to get water into our distribution system. But I'll remind everybody, none of that can happen until the distribution system is repaired. So these things are happening concurrently. What we hope to do is to be in a position to begin to pressurize the system once the reconstruction of the bypass line is completed. So I'm going to come back and talk about the distribution system in a minute. I didn't advance my slides, but I just want to show a couple more pictures on what that looks like. And I need to look. Okay. So this, I talked about the turbidity in the reservoir. Well, this is a picture of a filter. So this is where the water comes and it passes through this to be able to be treated and put into the distribution system. And that's very dark, but this is a better picture. So what you see here is the water that's in our water treatment plant. On the left, again, I would describe that as chocolate milk. On the right, that is crystal clear. So that is the difference in the water condition in our treatment plant before and after Hurricane Helene. So again, this mud, these conditions, all this has to be cleaned and removed. So not only do we have to have water that we can treat, we have to have a plant that's in a condition to treat that. But I'll go back and say we are making contingency plans to try to get water into the distribution system. So I'm going to move over to Mills River now. We've talked about that a lot. I have some good news from Mills River. Our Mills River plant is fully operational, and we've actually reduced the pressure at that plant. That sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually really good news, because what that means is we've been able to fully pressurize the southern Asheville, southern Buncombe distribution area. So the area that Mills River services is now fully pressurized. And that's really good news, because one is it means if you have water, you should not lose water in the South Asheville area. But the other thing that it means is we do not have any major breaks in the southern distribution system. Now, we may still find small breaks as we begin to recover, but that's great news from Mills River. I do want to note one thing. I want to temper that. It is critical that if you're in the southern distribution center and you have water, it is critical that you continue to conserve water. Anybody that has water needs to conserve water. We have a long way to go. So I'll move to the distribution system. We've talked a lot about this. We showed a lot of imagery on Friday, but our contractors continue to make progress on large-scale repairs to our primary transmission lines. Those contractors for the city are TP Howard and Tanoka. We are also working closely with NCDOT and their contractors, and we are all working together to make these critical repairs to the distribution system as we find them and as we have materials available. One thing I want to note, I want to just give a little bit of the challenge on that. So we are having to restore a water system and roads and do the design work. The engineering is actually happening in the field as the work occurs. Normally, you would have the engineers in the office. They would do the design work. Then we would do a bid and do the construction. So all this is happening at once. So we have the contractors have their engineers. We have ours. We are engineering and building concurrently to restore the distribution system. And so, and we can talk more about this, but it's important to know that the way we've sequenced that repair to the distribution system is we begin at the points that are closest to the source of water. So we want to make sure that the distribution system that is in the closest proximity to North Fork Water Treatment Plant, those need to be repaired first, and then we'll make our repairs out into the larger system. And we do it in that manner because that's the manner that the water is going to go into the system. It's going to start closest to the source, and then it's going to make its way out into the other areas of the system. And the last thing I want to note is I also want to make everybody aware our City of Asheville water crews had a couple of questions on the number of employees. I've confirmed that we have 181 employees in the City of Asheville's water department. They are also making repairs in preparation for the restoration process. So this includes they're out assessing, making repairs as they're found. And I want to be clear, as the system pressurizes in the coming weeks, we will continue to find new breaks and leaks. So it's important to know that there are many, many breaks and leaks that we are not even aware of yet. And we won't know those until we are able to pressurize the system. And that concludes my comments for today. And I'm going to turn it over to Police Chief Mike Lamb. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. And good morning. It's, I guess, 3 minutes more of the morning. So my name is Mike Lamb. I'm the Chief of Police for the Asheville Police Department. And I'll be updating you on public safety and law enforcement operations within the city of Asheville. So currently we are operating with full patrol staffing and also full detective staffing. And we have 20% more officers that are volunteering to come in on their days off on average. These dedicated teams are working to find missing persons, to do drone and search and rescue operations. We're doing outside resource management. And also we have additional roving patrols in areas to prevent theft and burglary. So with our missing persons, thus far, we have located 336 reported persons alive and well. We have approximately 394 total persons that are reported missing to date on our missing person spreadsheet. And currently we are actively working 60 cases of people that are missing and not heard from. Of those 60, 20 of those are folks that are unhoused. We have distributed face sheets to our officers so that they are aware of these missing persons, so that if they locate them in the community, that they can call us and that they can take them off the sheet. We're also receiving substantial assistance from the FBI and also Homeland Security in helping us with the missing persons list, but also helping us to identify deceased persons that we are recovering. We're also receiving additional DNA resources, DNA rapid testing instruments, and consumables from donations from private sectors. So we're very appreciative of the donations of the material that helps us to be able to identify deceased persons and give closure to families. So over the weekend, we did a total of 5 rescues from our missing persons and welfare checks. I'll speak of 2 of those rescues. One was an elderly female who was in a bad situation where she was running out of the critical oxygen that she needs in order to survive. She had no cell phone coverage and was blocked in by downed trees to her house. So officers were able to get her the medical attention and the oxygen that she needs. And they were also able to facilitate trees being removed from her driveway so that resources could get in and out of her house. The other one was a man who had broken his leg. He had no cell phone coverage and he also was blocked in. So officers were able to get him the critical medical attention that he needed. So from our deceased persons list, and I want to clarify that this is within the city limits of Asheville, we have recovered 9 deceased persons. And again, we were very thankful for the help from the FBI and Homeland Security on helping us to recover and identify those persons, and also our search and rescue teams. With our drone team, we are working affected zones in and around the Swannanoa River and also the French Broad River. We're working alongside search and rescue teams from the Asheville Fire Department, but also New Jersey Search and Rescue. And we're also receiving substantial assistance from our private sector, from companies like Axon, Airworks, DroneSense, and Paladin, in helping us with additional pilots and additional resources for these critical drone operations. So we have a lot of outside agencies that are also assisting us. We have over 45 independent law enforcement agencies from across the state and nation that are providing assistance to us by giving us more resources so that we can be in more places to prevent more crime. We're also managing on average 190 officers every 24 hours. They are protecting critical infrastructure and also augmenting patrols for areas, again, that are experiencing violent crime and also theft and burglaries. Currently, we're working at a 40% higher call volume compared to the last 3 years during this time. That's an average of 85 more calls a day that officers are responding to. Over the past 2 days, we have been able to capture a homicide suspect from the 1 homicide and the 2 attempted homicides that we had last week. So of those incidents, we have been able to recover and arrest every one of those suspects. And over the weekend, we arrested 3 different individuals that were going around barricades and attempting to loot businesses. So we're thankful that we were able to arrest those 3, and also from the help from the Holly Springs Police Department and helping us locate those people. And again, those additional resources that we have. So I want to remind everyone that we have a curfew. The curfew is in effect from 7:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Now, we realize that businesses are opening back up and water is being restored to certain areas of Asheville. So as that happens, we will reevaluate the curfew and try and do what's best for the community overall. As a reminder to the public, please be aware of scammers. Scammers are coming into our area in order to take advantage of survivors. Never give cash to anyone representing themselves as a contractor. And do your due diligence to determine their licensing, their insurance coverage, and also their company credibility. So thank you very much. And please be helpful to each other out there. And we are thankful for the community. Thanks.
We know we provided a lot of information today in this 11 a.m. briefing. A few key things that we want to touch on before we open it up to questions from the media who are on a Zoom link. As of the morning update from Duke Energy, we still have 67,000 customers who are without power. Election services, that Board of Elections meeting will take place Tuesday at 3:30 p.m., not 3 p.m. Anyone who has questions about election services, you can call the Election Services Office at 828-250-4200. Again, 828-250-4200. If you have phone service, they can help answer your questions, so you don't have to try to get into the office. They'll do what they can over the phone for you. And then there were some comments in the Facebook chat about Waste Pro bins. They didn't get collected at the end of the day. If those bins did not get collected, that means that Waste Pro could not make it to your service area that day. Pull those back in. We have extended hours at the landfill, and we'll continue expanding that Waste Pro service as roads begin to be restored. So with that, we will turn it over to questions from the media in the Zoom chat.
Question for Corinne Duncan, Mark Barrett with the New York Times. What concerns does she have that the difficulties that elections will face, like a lot of other things in our society today, will decrease turnout?
Sure. And just one thing with Corinne, the spelling of her name is Corinne Duncan, and it's pronounced Corinne.
Sorry about that. Thanks.
Just for folks who are writing, I'll turn it over to Corinne.
Thank you, Lillian. So we're in the initial stages of assessing our voting locations and trying to contact our poll workers in order to make a plan for in-person voting. In general, early voting tends to be the most popular option because it has flexibility. So we're really trying to prioritize that and focus on that right now. The State Board of Elections will also be providing some flexibility, hopefully. They met during this briefing, so we'll get some more information on that as we go. Concerns for us specifically are the water situation, so making sure that we have sanitary conditions at the polling locations, we get porta potties, those kind of things. And we're working with the state board to address those issues, and we are getting support.
Laura Lee from Blue Ridge Public Radio had some questions for Ben. Hey, Ben, thank you so much for all that information. I just want to make sure that we understood this correctly. So it's about 72 hours for the bypass line to be connected. And then once that happens, the next steps are with the distribution lines, and we don't yet have a time frame on that. And it sounds like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, it sounds like the lines that are going to get fixed first are the ones closest to the plant. Can we infer from that that people who live closest to the plant are going to get restoration of water soonest, or is it something where the lines have to be, you know, fully repaired and throughout a system before you can start pumping water into it?
So I really appreciate that question, actually, and thank you, because I do want to make sure I'm clear on what we're saying here, and you were correct in your assessment. So we've talked about the bypass line a lot and the importance of that particular part of the infrastructure. So yes, what I am saying is that we hope to have that installed or connected later this week. So that's what the 72 hours is, nothing more than that pipe. That is it. So just want to be clear on that. And that is a remarkable feat, because if you saw the conditions that exist when they started, they have engineered, designed, our contractors mobilized, and they are going to rebuild that in a matter of a little over a week. That is remarkable and amazing progress. So we just wanted to share that. But you're also correct. That doesn't mean that we can put water in that pipe in 72 hours. That doesn't mean that the rest of the distribution system is prepared to accept water. So I am only saying that pipe is done. And I will say today, our restoration to water is still measured in weeks, not days. So I just want to be clear on that. But I also acknowledge that that's perceptive. You're right. When water restoration does begin, it will happen closest to the source of the water, and it will spread out from there. So the closest and the lowest elevation areas will likely receive water first, and it builds from there. Also important to note that restoration requires, it's methodical. We have to make sure pressures are correct. We have to look for lines that may explode when we pressurize them. So it is a systematic, methodical process to restore water. And I do it again. I appreciate the clarification. I appreciate the question on the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask you one more question about, you mentioned and you showed us the dry conditions in that area that you need to be able to work, and then that you still have water in the creek. So is it basically that you have to get that bypass line in over the next 72 hours before you can shore up upstream to keep that creek from the work that you need to do?
Yes, we have to get that bypass line under our new creek. So yes, that has to happen in sections, because we're not able to do that work when there's water there. So they have to put in shoring, do a lot of gradings required to do this. So yes, once we get the bypass line under the creek, we'll have another elbow and we'll be able to connect to the line that you saw in the photograph where our drone operator was on Friday.
Great, thank you. I have some other water questions, but they're about like water distribution for city or county managers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What's your question, Laura?
I have a couple. One is about the non-potable water distribution. We have a reporter who's at the Asheville Middle School site, and our understanding is that they are not distributing non-potable water there. I want to make sure that we heard clearly the message is that there is non-potable water at all of the city and county sites, and then if you have clarification on why there might not be that distribution at the middle school, we'd love to know that as well.
I see the city manager walking this way. I'll defer that to City Manager Deborah Campbell.
Hello again, and the information that I have is that there should be water available for flushing, and I don't know if it is categorized as non-potable, but you should have and be able to get water for flushing.
We can share that. We can share that with the city's PIO team and have them follow up with you directly on that response.
Great. Thank you. Could I ask a couple of questions of Vic Isley?
Vic is walking this way.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Just wanted to ask sort of a broad question for people who may not have full understanding of how the TDA functions and what the parameters are in terms of regulations about how that money is permitted to be expended, and wondering if there has been any leniency. We've had a lot of reporting prior to the storm about the state law requirement that you have to use funds for infrastructure and some portion and the rest to promote tourism. Is there latitude on the state regulations about how you were able to allocate that money?
Thank you. In the state of North Carolina, each county has its own legislation that is passed through the North Carolina General Assembly. Ours was changed, Buncombe County's was changed 2 years ago to conform to the state guidelines, which is 2/3 to marketing and promotion and 1/3 to capital community projects. That is what our legislation is today, and we are bound by that. That's why when we're looking at the establishing the Always Asheville Fund, is we have what's called an earned revenue fund, which comes from advertising revenue share or bookings from our website at exploreasheville.com. So it is not it's not restricted the way the occupancy tax funds are. So we are able to put that into the Always Asheville Fund to work for micro grants for our small business community.
And how much is in that earned revenue fund?
So we're transferring 300,000 into the Always Asheville Fund. There's 370,000 in it today. And then we have $50,000 in pledges to start from destinations and travel and hospitality partners around the country. And that's just the beginning.
And if you had any indication from lawmakers, as you said, there's a statutory requirement for this expenditure, that they might offer some flexibility or latitude given the tremendous circumstances we're under?
That's a great question. And we all have a role to play. And that's where we're, into talking with our city and county officials, which definitely have their hands full with FEMA and Corps of Engineers and that core infrastructure that Ben just talked about. We do know that the North Carolina legislature goes back into session Wednesday this week. My understanding is there's going to be discussion about a big relief opportunity, whether one's tabled or not. I am unsure of, but I know that it is definitely on the minds of our legislature in North Carolina. Both Tim Moore and Phil Berger were here in Asheville on Friday, and I know that all of our local delegations have been very active as well. We've been in discussions with them, but I think there are bigger fish to fry in terms of the scale of what's needed in terms of relief for our community. And as I mentioned in my comments before, there are assets that we're currently under renovation and that we're looking really good, like the Asheville Municipal Golf Course, the WNC Nature Center, as well as the JBL soccer fields. So we need to do an assessment with our city and county partners of which of those are still viable projects. And I think we'll probably get to that sometime later next week. It's just putting things in motion and in order here.
And if we understood your comments earlier correctly, you all are pausing on advertising, obviously, in the present moment. Do you have a time frame that you anticipate how long that might be? And could you talk a little bit about balancing
recording stopped
needs of tourism with the needs to
Laura, you were going in and out there for a moment, but yes, we have paused all paid advertising. And the $1 million sponsorship that we were doing. Yep, absolutely.
Sorry, is anyone there?
I lost it. It's gone.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah, it's a meeting.
Going, like, take over host.
I would have to like, I think I can. I'm. Check the live stream, make sure it's on.
Double check the live stream.
Recording in progress.
Hi again, Laura. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. I was just asking about your pause on advertising and how long you might anticipate that would be, and then also sort of balancing the need for tourism revenue against the obvious,